And away we go. It's just me at the moment. Not sure if Risk is going to join, not sure if Eric's going to join, and not sure if a third person is going to join. Either way, life goes on. Now, before we get right into the news, as of this recording, and this is regarding my chapters for my presence on the global stage, it's looking pretty progressive so far. Make of that as you will. It's looking pretty good. Now, of course, as of this recording, in the next week or two, there will be more processes for me to go through, and once that's set in stone, wait for the green light from particular groups of people that will help me with providing the jobs, and then away I go. Whatever happens, once I do enter the global stage, like particular celebrities and very notable figures that are making the headlines, I will tell you this. One thing is for sure. Nothing is going to get to me. If I get stopped by someone, if I get told to leave a particular place, I'm just not going to give a damn. Because I know how this game works. I know this is the stage that I'm entering. I know what I'm getting myself into. If I didn't want to get through that, I wouldn't have got into this to begin with. But I want to. And whether or not I like it, I do believe that whatever comes in my life, it's going to be quite the ride. I'm going to enjoy it way too much. Oh yes, I will enjoy it way too much. However, I'm just going to go along and just see how things go. At the end of the day, what's important is we entertain and amuse the masses with the tea, the flip-flops, the suspense. Anything goes, really. And again, if I get myself into something, some altercations, not that I want to, but I get into it anyway, because someone wants to come at me and just tell me something that's on their mind, I'll let them. Because no matter how much I want to call out particular groups of people, or how much I have to say to those people about what they are saying about me and what they do not like about my presence, my personality, things that I say or do, I know that there will be other people that'll be stand that are either witnesses or are just looking into the story as they go. Someone will also be saying what I would initially say at the time. I've nothing to worry about. You got to have trust, and you also got to have faith. All the way, no matter what. That remains true to this day. So, with that being said, let's get right into the news. Dutch journalist's AI glasses demo ignites European privacy fears. A viral TV demonstration shows Dutch tech journalist Alexander Kruping wearing AI-powered smart glasses that identify strangers' details instantly, sparking privacy concerns. Amid renewed wearable AI investment and slow-moving politics, Kruping said his goal was to scare the living daylights out of people, to show how easily AI and public data combine. Technically, the glasses surfaced personal information within seconds by combining off-the-shelf AI systems with publicly available data sources, turning any wearer into a wearer as surveillance, and raising risks of algorithmic bias and misidentification. Privacy experts warn collecting biometric data without consent raises GDPR-style legal concerns, and being recorded unknowingly could chill freedom of expression and create data repositories and security risks. Longer term, experts fear stalkers and harassers or authoritarian regimes will misuse this tech, well, ethical black market risks and centralized biometric databases invite cyber attacks. Now, those are very good points. I can't argue with that. And regarding scaring the living daylights out of people, that too. That you really scared the living daylights out of people, alright? It just worked too well. Way too well. With concerns like that, why on earth would anyone think of just make it commercially available? Surely there has to be guardrails and particular committees and teams that actually address these concerns firsthand. And once those concerns have been addressed, then you go ahead with launching the product for commercial sale. Otherwise, we would already be hearing more stories about how people wearing these AI glasses to steal people's information, or possibly, I know this might be a stretch at this point. However, if these glasses can just identify people instantly, looking at all of their personal information, surely someone is going to use that information to their own advantage. They might even blackmail people with this information. And if particular groups of people don't do what the scammer says or wants from these people, whatever information comes from those people or about these people, they will go to authorities. But it's not just giving information, and again, a bigger stretch than previously. Whoever has advantage in taking people's information might potentially twist those data sources to make it look like that everyday people are potentially a threat to society. Not saying they are, and I'm certainly not saying something like this will ever happen, but you never know. The attention of such people that want to ruin people's lives and trying to blackmail people into doing whatever the scammer wants people to do in any way. They'll go all lengths to manipulate and blackmail people. And with these AI glasses, this opens a floodgate of a lot more problems than we currently have right now. Not just with AI, but technology as a whole. And this is only the beginning of AI. Haven't OpenAI's ChatGPT released at least 2-3 years ago? People believe that, oh my gosh, how have you, this is amazing, the greatest information anyone has ever told me. And then fast forward a few years, other companies also started implementing their own AI chatbots, and now we're now asking the question, are people too reliant on AI chatbots? The answer is definitely yes. So anyway, back to the story about AI glasses demonstration. Yeah, just having AI glasses with such capabilities of identifying people instantly and looking at potential private information about these people, that opens floodgates of a lot more problems than we have right now with technology and AI as a whole. There's a lot of tech experts have a lot of bugs to squash and fix before releasing anything. Because yeah, if these issues aren't addressed and something bad happens to these people, they're gonna get sued very badly for a lot of money. So yeah, I'd be cautious. If I was them, I would be very, very cautious and actually fix these problems before even considering launching these products to be sold publicly and commercially. It just makes sense. Argentina's President Milei to issue a dollar bond, eyeing a return to global markets. Argentina's government announced on Friday it will issue Bonar 2029N, a 4-year dollar bond with a 6.5% coupon, to be auctioned in December and maturing 9, to cover an imminent January payment without touching reserves. The Treasury said sharp dollar yield compression and strong program performance prompted broadening financing to meet January 9th obligations, and IMF reserve targets under the 20 billion US dollar IMF agreement. Negotiating banks are discussing a roughly $7 billion loan, while Argentina faces than more than $4 billion in January maturities and plan to refinance principal repayments. President Javier Milei celebrated the government's return to capital markets in a post on Twitter X, framing it as a comeback after nearly 8 years. If the auction succeeds, Caputo says the issuance could improve Argentina's financial outlook and help reduce, successful reserve accumulation would advance commitments under the April $20 billion US dollar IMF agreement. Good on Argentina to getting back into the market and getting their finances in check. Whilst I still have my concerns about being too reliant on the United States for everything, even if they are powerful, financially strong, and will just have everything much bigger and a lot of expenses that benefits a lot of countries around the world. You don't want to be too reliant on a particular country for too long, especially in case a new president comes along after President Trump or, dare I say, President Vance. I'm just saying, whatever happens after the current administration and the potential administration comes before it, if Vance is to win the next presidential election, how long can Argentina hold on for? Just food for thought. You gotta think about particular alternatives in case things fall through the floorboards and just someone loses the plot. However, as it stands right now, Argentina is getting their finances in check and seems like they got things in order for now. But you never know if whatever problems will come about, even if things are looking good for Argentina. They are not free from any potential financial consequences that is potentially yet to come, especially if there's circumstances that they would not have expected to begin with. Netflix Warner Brothers deal looks like an anti-monopoly nightmare. Warren. Josh Brown, a long-term Netflix bull, cut his position in Netflix by 85% following its $72 billion deal to buy pieces of Warner Brothers Discovery due to regulatory and antitrust scrutiny headwinds. Senator Elizabeth Warren called Netflix acquisition an antitrust nightmare that would harm workers and consumers, and criticized the deal for creating a media giant with control of close to half of the streaming market. Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos defended the deal, stating it is pro-consumer, pro-innovation, pro-worker, pro-creator, pro-growth, and expressed confidence in the regulatory process. I also would add is it's also pro-wealth as well, because the amount of content that Netflix is going to get from acquiring Warner Brothers Discovery is going to make them a lot more money. And especially if, someone's going to say that, if someone within Netflix or Warner Brothers saying that Warner Brothers and Netflix are going to continue producing and promoting content on their own dedicated streaming service, then that would mean people would still continue to pay for two subscriptions, one for Netflix and another for Discovery Plus, or wherever Warner Brothers content is being showcased at. That is not Netflix. That's what I would say for that pro wealth. That's a lot of money that Netflix is going to make if this deal goes ahead. Risk said that it was not going to go through because this is all for theatre. There's no way that a deal like this is going to go through, and especially if Trump gets involved, saying not so fast. Yeah, that's going to put a stop to things. Yeah, and actually that's the headline that the Western Journal said. White House says not so fast as Netflix announces industry-altering deal to acquire Warner Brothers. So, of course, Risk 11 is right on the nose. He's spot on with the Netflix Warner Brothers deal. But the question is, how much does Trump care about this deal going ahead? Because something I also said to Risk about this is that the current administration probably doesn't care too much about which studios bump heads with who, so long as whatever content doesn't threaten the strategies of the current administration or even threaten to tarnish Trump's credibility. That's what I've said, and that may as well be true because, yeah, you make of that information for yourself. Nonetheless, yeah, if when you hear about deals like this, don't jump to conclusions too quickly because you never know if it's set in stone or if there are particular aspects and obstacles like the Trump administration saying, no, we're not going to let this deal get through, we'll not allow it. Yeah, you never know what obstacles are going to come ahead. So only time will tell if this deal actually goes through. So yeah, that's that. I think I think Warner Bros. Has a decent amount of content. Risk would also say the same thing. So I don't blame Netflix wanting to acquire Warner Brothers. However, you also have to ask, and also people having arguments about Netflix acquiring Warner Brothers. Where are those arguments when Disney was buying 20th Century Fox and all the other studios that came in its way? I think criticisms like that is a bit too late now, in my opinion. So if no one was complaining about if there wasn't enough people complaining about Disney acquiring companies and studios to establish their media empire, then I think it's too late to put up with critiques and arguments with Netflix and other studios wanting to acquire each other. So that's just how the world functions. But of course, it's not too late to actually speak out. It's just if you've made aware of what Disney was doing with acquiring studios, but yet you have a different opinion when Disney do it to how you would have opinions about Netflix acquiring studios, what changed? How is this any different? Yeah, you just don't know unless you just know. That doesn't make any sense, but then again, nothing in this world makes sense anymore. That's just how it is. UK house prices stagnate in November, Halifax says. Britain's housing market slowed in November in both annual and monthly terms in the run-up to the government's budget, figures from mortgage leader Halifax showed on Friday. Halifax said house prices were flat in November, down from 0.5% growth in November. Compared to a year ago, house price growth slowed to 0.7% from an annual increase of 1.9% in October, the weakest rate since March 2024. The lender said the annual slowdown largely reflected the impact of stronger house price growth a year ago. Annual growth has slowed to 0.7%, the weakest rate since March 2024, though this largely reflects the base effect of much stronger price growth this time last year, Amanda Bryden, head of mortgages at Halifax, said. Even with the changes to stamp duty back in spring and some uncertainty ahead of the autumn budget, property values have remained steady. Some other measures of Britain's housing market have suggested a slowing in house price growth, which has been attributed to caution among home buyers ahead of Finance Minister Rachel Reeves' November 26th budget. Figures from rival mortgage lender Nationwide, published on Tuesday, showed that prices rose by 0.3% in November, and annual house price growth slowed to 1.8%. Bryden said affordability was the strongest since 2015 and expected property prices to grow gradually next year, supported by steady activity and interest rate cuts by the Bank of England. The Bank of England is widely expected to reduce borrowing costs by 25 basis points to 3.75% in December. Not bad, not bad. But nonetheless, the home prices are still growing. Don't forget that. But homes are still getting expensive as the years go by. But at least the rate is growing. The prices of homes, or buying a home, is not so much as it was previous years or previous months. So that's that. And look, I've said this a couple of times before, I'll say it again. No matter how bad things get, with whatever goes on in the world, things will likely get better. And this is one of them. Inflation is still a thing, home prices are still growing, but at least the rate it's growing is very minimal. Very minimal. I'll take a rate any day than anything else. I would rather have a rate like that be consistent for at least 3 to 5 years than have a rate of 3%, which that's just my opinion. But yeah, home prices as it is are just are just expensive as it is. However, there aren't enough homes being built these days, so that's why home prices are growing because there aren't enough homes to supply whatever working population that wants to have a home of their own. Sounds like that would sound like a very good tongue twister. I'll make a note of that. Creator IShowSpeed sued for allegedly punching, choking viral humanoid Rizbot. Rizbot? What the fudge? What is this, man? Good grief. Let's just read what it says. Meeting with the popular humanoid influencer Rizbot. What a name. Good grief. 1 million followers and 800 million views across social media and is known for its comedic roasting of subjects, as well as giving people the middle finger. Of course it does. Speed, meanwhile, has more than 50 million followers and 6 billion views across various platforms and is known for his dramatic behavior while live streaming. Yeah, yeah. I don't know why I like that. I don't know why I like it, but I do. What happened when the two parties met is the subject of a lawsuit that Rizbot's creator, Social Robotics, detailed in a petition filed in November against Speed. Near Darian Jason Watkins Jr., his management company, Mixed Management, and another producer who was with Speed's team that day, the petition obtained by TechCrunch alleges that Speed inflicted irreparable damage to Rizbot. The lawsuit alleged that, and the live stream video shows that, Speed repeatedly punched Rizbot in the face, put it in a chokehold, at one point pinned it to the couch, and threw it to the ground. Speed absolutely knew that this was not an appropriate way to interact with a sophisticated robot, and knew that such actions would inflict irreparable damage to Rizbot. The petition read, "These actions resulted in the total loss of the Rizbot." The petition read that Speed's handling of the robot caused complete loss of functionality, and that Rizbot had significant damages to its mouth and neck. Additionally, the head cameras no longer function. The ports behind the neck, which connects to robot sensors that allow it to see and hear, are dead, and the robot is unstable and cannot walk straight any longer, the petition alleges. The petition is asking for compensation for damages, including actual and lost profit, though Rizbot's legal team declined to comment on the dollar amount the owner is seeking. Okay, now, before I get to the damages to Rizbot, I'll have to say this. A sophisticated robot, yet Rizbot is known for throwing the middle finger and its roasts. Yeah, very sophisticated indeed. That's just me. I think there'll be people that will say somewhat similar things. Like, come on. Oh, I mean, if people like Rizbot, then fair enough, but to call Rizbot sophisticated, it's primarily known for roasting in particular subjects, and more importantly, giving the middle finger. That is anything but sophisticated. But that's just me. Now, in regards to the damages to wristwatch, yeah. Although speed is all over the place, and sometimes I do find it funny. Yeah, I think there has to be a line drawn about how you interact with, well, not just anyone, but anything, especially humanoid robots. I mean, I don't mind what Speed does. Again, I find things he does hilarious, and I do question why does he do these things in a sarcastic way. Why why put a humanoid robot at such a chokehold? Like, how badly did Risbot violate this man? What did Risbot say to Speed that actually caused Speed to perform such actions like that towards Risbot? To the point of not actually functioning anymore. But even if, but even then, come on, it's not that deep. That's what Risbot's known for, roasting people. How are you not going to take, how are you not going to accept the roast by Risbot? As well as whatever people react to Risbot saying to that person or anyone. Personally, I think it's a bit much. I mean, yeah, I mean, go nuts, do what you gotta do to entertain people. Yeah, don't, don't, don't resort to violence, and especially don't cause severe damages to anyone or anything. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that. There are some things that you do, there are some lines you do not cross, and there are some actions, there are actions that are not necessary. And this story is both of those things. Personally, I would have also go nuts with Rispot, but I would certainly not damage it. Because what if someone else wants to have a go with Rispot? And what if Rispot wants to continue interacting with other people? I would at least consider that, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's unfortunate that Rispot has had to go. At least mainly because it is broken beyond it, and whatever Speed has to pay for the damages, he has 50 million followers across all of his social media platforms, so I think you would have enough money to cover those profit loss for the company that made Rispot. So I don't see any problem with just paying what damages need to be paid. I am certain that Speed is a millionaire. He can cover those costs for that company instantly without. Friendly Yorkshire market town crowned Britain's happiest place to live. Richmond has retained its persistent crown as the London Borough residents are happy to live in, while the Borough of Camden has shot up the rankings, put two London boroughs in the top 10 in Rightmove's index this year for the first time. The top spot nationwide, though, has been nabbed by Skipton in North Yorkshire, which last year was sixth on the list. The market town knocked Woodbridge in Suffolk from the top of Rightmove's annual Happy at Home index. In a boost for London, which has usually only had one borough in the nation's top 10, this year Richmond and Camden took second and third place nationwide in the rankings, respectively. Residents of Richmond ranked it highly for its access to nature in particular. The borough is home not only to the sprawling 2,500-acre Richmond Park, but also Bushy Park, Kew Gardens, and the WWT London Wetland Centre. It's no wonder, then, that the capital's leafy enclave continues to have a draw for celebrities, with Sir David Attenborough, Holly Willoughby, Zendaya, and Tom Holland, and most recently, Ben Shepherd, among famous names to call Tameside area home. The borough, which has retained its title as Happiest Place to Live in London for the 11th consecutive year, also ranks highly among residents for access to both essential services and non-essential amenities such as restaurants and shops. With an average house price of £500, the southwest London borough is the fifth most expensive in the capital. Prohibitive for some, but clearly very nice for those who can afford it. Across the river, meanwhile, Camden has surged up the rankings and taken a podium spot for the first time in the study's 14-year history. Each year, our study celebrates all the different things that make us feel happy with where we live, our neighbours, green spaces, having access to important services. Rightmove property expert Colleen Babcock said. She explains that the survey is meant to show what it is that really draws us to live in a certain area and what keeps us happy living there. A lot more goes into choosing an area to live other than the home itself. Richmond has a rare ability to feel both vibrant and calming at the same time, says Amy Reynolds, head of sales at Anthony Roberts Estate Agents in the borough. I think that balance is a huge part of why people are genuinely happy living here. You're never far from green space, whether it's Richmond Park, the towpath, or quiet pockets of nature tucked between neighborhoods. Yet you still have the cafes, independence, and community hubs that give the area its character. Integration into a community and connection with the area is important too, Robert says. Well, good for Camden and Richmond as two London boroughs to make the list for Rightmove's list index. I can't believe I forgot what it was called after reading it a few seconds ago. However, even bigger congratulations to Skipton in North Yorkshire for taking the top spot in its list. It's incredible that no matter that even places in the north of England can still be great places to live, and they are. They just, well, money's a thing that is getting in the way. Not that people should care about money or should hoard loads of it. However, that's how the world goes. Money is what makes the world go round, most of the time. Other times there's other aspects that comes with the position of power you're in, and of course saying you got to do this and do that, don't do this or don't do that, or else you'll get the hatchet, and that's not good. But I digress. Hopefully the success for Skipton continues in the following years to come for Rightmove's index, and I hope that more places in the north of England also makes the list, because, I mean, whilst it may not be like London or anywhere in the south of England, but the north of England has its own charms that not a lot of places have, and that is great. Australia wildfire rips through homes. On December 10th, Australia will block under-16s from TikTok, Meta's Instagram and Snapchat under a world-first law carrying fines up to 49.5 million Australian dollars. The government says the ban will protect young people from harmful content and online predators. As some 96% of Australian teenagers under 16 have social media accounts. Oprah Winfrey on tour praised the ban, saying it would help young people socialize more. The majority of platforms have said they will comply, and observers say Australia is again leading global digital regulation, attracting international scrutiny. Winfrey warned she was particularly concerned about the internet's impact on young boys, saying early exposure may foster porn addiction and hinder real-person socialization. I will say Oprah does make a few good points regarding like using social media prohibits people from socializing with people in the real world, and of course, porn addiction. That's a serious issue that has to be tackled. And you know what? I agree with these concerns. However, I also have other concerns of my own that goes actually against this ban. Like, if these platforms, like they have said, that they will enforce this law that Australia is now about to put in place. Who gets on the app based on their current age? How can you tell if someone's of a certain age who are old enough to use the platform or if they're too young to use social media? If you find out that there are people that are using social media that aren't old enough to do so, what measures are put in place? And I'm not just talking about just banning the person, because what if that person eventually turns 16, wants to get on social media, but then upon creating a social media account, you get a message that says, "Oh, you're being banned because you try to use social media because you're not over 16." Yeah, whilst there are valid concerns about young people using social media, what if these young people then become 16, or anyone that was banned from using social media because they weren't old enough at the time now are old enough to use social media platforms today, but yet they can't make an account because they were banned because a few years prior they tried to do what they're doing now, just back when they were under 16. That's just thoughts and questions that I have that I believe will be very important for social media platforms to actually address. And also another concern that I have, and I've said many times, and I'm not saying this is likely to happen, but there are going to be people that will abuse the language of this legislation to not just go after children to access social media platforms. What if the language of that legislation could also be expanded towards people of all ages, and not just people accessing social media platforms, but to access platforms where information is sensitive to not just national governments, but particular groups of people that have a lot of the world's wealth and hold positions of power, whether it be in governments or in major companies and organizations. Not to say that this kind of legislation goes against the companies. What would happen if the companies themselves support any other legislation that goes beyond the under 16 social media ban? There are different ways to look at this, but you just don't know until they happen. And when it does happen, people are going to freak out, which they will. It is better to be safe than sorry. India caps airfares as Indigo crisis leaves hundreds stranded for fifth day. The centre on Saturday issued a directive to airlines to adhere to fare caps until stability, stating an official directive has been issued to all airlines, mandating strict adherence to the fare caps that have now been prescribed, the ministry said. Indigo faces acute crew shortages and planning failures, triggering over 400 cancellations on Saturday and nearly 1,000 on Friday amid the ongoing disruptions. Airport tallies show regional concentration of scrapped flights as Bengaluru Airport reported 124 cancellations, Mumbai 109, Delhi 106, Hyderabad 66, Pune 42, Chennai 48, and Ahmedabad 19 by Saturday afternoon. Passengers can rebook or claim full refunds under Indigo's Plan B, with refunds generally processed within 7 business days and DGCA requiring compensation up to 10,000 Indian rupees if notified late. The ministry will monitor fares in real time and coordinate with airlines and online travel platforms, recalling the May 2020 precedent that used distance-based price slabs. This is strange to me. I feel like I would have a lot to say about price caps, but at the same time, I'm just not sure where to start with it. Whilst it's important that people are able to afford necessities as well as afford whatever they want to purchase and or consume, you also gotta ask, how long will these fare caps last? And can airlines take such a loss from these caps for a long time? Even when people say that these fare caps are put in place to ensure stability, there are a lot of things that have a cost to, like, not just the salaries that you pay to the staff to work their jobs at these airlines, but there's also a cost in, like, upkeeping the planes that these airlines use, and expenses towards providing catering to the passengers on plane. There are many costs to running any business, and I'm not saying that having fare caps is a bad idea. I do believe anyone and everyone should be able to afford what they want to get. Having strict fare caps for a long time may potentially be a problem. It's not end of the world if it happens. It may potentially snowball into a problem if fare caps are too strict, too low, and it goes on for quite a long time. But of course, there are other aspects to why these caps are put in place to begin with. All I can say is that surely whatever fare caps are put in place, hopefully people are still able to go go to places, still use the airline and still be able to afford and get to places where they want to get to, whilst at the same time also hope that airlines in India, in general, they can still continue with business even if they are operating at somewhat of a loss, given that the fare caps are being put in place. So yeah, that's what I would say. And that is it for this episode.